Won't register. Hello and welcome to Social Media Business, the podcast about social media and business. Not too much business today because I'm in Bali and I've gone into what I call my tropical brain, which means it doesn't really work any better than usual. But I've got an excuse, which is I'm sort of on holiday, but it's not really a holiday. With me, as always, I've got the lovely Dave Early, who's on screen at the moment. Hi, Dave.
Hi, Laurel. Hi, everyone.
How are you?
Very good, thanks. I'm also on holidays this week, so just sitting at home, though, enjoying the time off.
You should come and join me in Bali.
I'd love to.
Although, to be honest, you live in the Gold Coast, don't you? So, which is bright and sunny and lovely anyway.
Brisbane, not quite the Gold Coast, but equally idyllic.
Okay, and now we've got Sean Williams saying that there's no video yet. So I'm wondering if Sean can see the video coming through. Hi, Sean. Maybe he can leave a comment in the Q&A section. And then,
Yeah.
Hi, Robin, we're here. So Robin Lewis has just asked, is anybody there? Yes, we are. And we'll let the others... Thanks, Anita's just pointing out that I'm in Bali and the internet's not always up to scratch here. Although I have to say, in some places it's been better than it is in the Blue Mountains in Australia. So I don't know that we're that far behind Bali in internet services. What are we talking about today, Dave?
So today we are talking about, let me just get back to, so we said we were going to talk a bit about gamification. That was brought up last week as an option to talk about today. So we're going to talk about gamification and then some social media stuff-ups and maybe a few things about the media and social media. So do we want to kick off with gamification?
Yeah, sure. You know, I've worked in games now for about 15, 20 years, I guess. Quite a long time, maybe even longer. And there's something about games that I find so intriguing because they're often the things that we use intrinsically within ourselves to motivate ourselves. So anybody who's even ever said, oh, if I can just finish this research paper, I'll eat the chocolate ice cream that's in the fridge, is in a sense, you know, gamifying work and things they don't want to do with rewards and things like that. So there's sort of a number of different aspects in gamification that we look at when we're building either a new game or making changes to large games or small ones. One is, the first one you have to ask yourself is it a Dorothy or an Alice world? And it's really intriguing at the number of people who like one world or one style of game versus another one. A Dorothy game is somebody who wants to follow a yellow brick road. So they want to know the rules. You know, all this thing about we just want to live in a free internet with no rules. That just doesn't happen. Communities are based around the rituals and the rules that they create. So a Dorothy world is one where you know what the leaderboards are, you know, or how you're going to be successful. You're following quests that have been written by other people, stories by other people. And an Alice world is an open world, like an open exploration. What sort of games do you like, Dave?
I don't play a lot of games now, I just don't have time, but I used to like a little bit of first-person shooters, you know, with either as individual or team, you know, team first-person shooter games, but also
Okay, we seem to have lost Dave. So if he disconnects, I'll reconnect him in a moment. But we'll keep going. Hopefully you guys can let me know how this is coming along. So Sean, you've said that you can see the video now. And Robin said the same thing. And John wants to know if it's switched on. I think he means the internet. Yes, the internet switched on, John. So Dave likes first-person shooters, but he's now vanished, which makes me think he's either been run off to shoot someone or something. I don't like first-person shooters, and I think it's because there's like 4 different personality types in games, and I consider myself to be probably the explorer. So I always like it when they bring in new lands, new areas for me to go and explore. Those sort of, I guess, quests or challenges make me feel like I'm in the Wild West and I'm exploring the Wild West. I don't know if you can hear that, but there's breakfast here at the resort, so there's a bit of stuff going on there. Bit of noise in the background. Hopefully they make me a coffee. I won't ask though. I'm wondering what type of game players you are out there. Even if you don't play games, do you consider yourself to be an explorer? Are you a warrior type? If you match the different personality types to perhaps a game that you play, like for instance World of Warcraft, there's the warrior who likes to thump things, which sounds like it could be Dave. Does he like to thump things? Let me just invite him back. We need to send an invitation. And Dave's in the Gold Coast, so there's no reason for him to be dropping out, to be honest. If you're a warrior type, you like thumping things. If you're a rogue, you like to sneak and pickpocket, and it's not direct confrontation, it's indirect. If you're a mage or a wizard or a priest, then you like to use kind of spells. What sort of personality type would that be? Probably somebody who likes to make things, and also healing, so more on the positive aspect of gaming rather than the shoot 'em up and kill 'em aspects, perhaps. And for me, I tend to play a mage or a priest, but definitely the explorer element rather than the thumping element suits me. I'm also a bit of a lone traveller, which is interesting for somebody who's perhaps so tied up normally in groups. I like to adventure alone in games, and I think sometimes if you're building games, even if it's one at work, so we're going to talk about the gamification of work, but games, you kind of have to fit in the different personality because it's never one size fits all, you know, and I find a lot of game developers play a lot of one kind of game, and so they assume that's what everybody else does, and that's kind of annoying. Never ever make developers marketers, because there's a real trick to being able to put on a hat of somebody else and say, oh, I'm this type of person, or I'm that type of person, and do the gaming that way. So George says that he's a paladin. I always find the hybrid characters like paladins really interesting because you're a mixture of a warrior and a healer. So it's really the old, what they used to call, what was it, chaos and, the opposite of chaos, order, where you want to have everything in order or in control. Now they're Dorothy worlds. So Alice doesn't follow the yellow brick road. She just explores the world in her own terms. There's quite a few games that are like that, probably Second Life, where you're actually building the world as you go along. Here's one of them. Right all over my computer. And now we've got Dave back. So Dave, I do think it's you that's being disconnected, not me.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm back. I'm on the iPad. I'm on the iPad now because.
You're on the iPad. Okay, well we can't see you, but we can hear you, so that's a good thing. I was just saying that besides the Alice and Dorothy worlds, there's 4 different types of characters, and if you match them to something like World of Warcraft, you know, it's the pure ones are mage, the priest, the warrior, and the rogue, and they just sort of represent different types of personality types. If you're in marketing, there would be personas, or they even call it avatar marketing now, which is intriguing because to me, you know, avatars was on the gaming side and personas was on the marketing side, and now people are mashing up. I guess the generation that's coming through now that's creating TV shows and creating films and creating marketing have been playing games, computer games for 10, 20 years, so it's interesting.
Yeah.
What do you like about first-person shooters? Is it the blood and gore?
Well, that's the thing. I haven't played them for a long time now. I don't think it's the blood and gore. I think it's just the competition, really.
Oh, so you're ambitious and competitive. Oh, and he's gone again. Okay, so every time I insult Dave, he seems to vanish. And now we've got the dogs starting up as well. I don't know if you can hear them. This is going to be a great podcast, but hey-ho, I'm in Bali, and it's fun here, so I'm just taking an hour out this morning to talk games. Dave's back again.
Back again.
You're back again. So you like the competition?
Yeah, yeah.
With other people or against other people?
Sorry, what was that?
With people against other people in games?
Yeah,
Like,
against other people, I guess, the competition. Even in strategy games like Civilization, it was the competition, I think, of beating. And I mean, I guess that's really any game is.
When we look at rewards, one of the rewards is leaderboards in games. Are you at the top of the leaderboard for the one who's made the most money? Well, that would be the game of life. The one who's collected the most pieces of paper with dollars printed on top of them. I don't play that game, which is good for me because I suck at it. There'd be, other leaderboards, which is the most. Actually, one of the things we found in games is when we had a leaderboard where people collected the most money, we shifted it and we created a second leaderboard for the people who were the most generous. And then all the people with money went and stood at the beginning of the game where people would come in and gave all their money away so they could be the top of that leaderboard as well. So as fast as they were making money, they were giving it away. And I called it the Warren Buffett and syndrome, because he gave all of his money away. In fact, a few of them haven't they? Bill Gates and quite a lot of them are giving away their money again. What else? I think if you look at the personas, so you take your persona marketing and apply that to games and have this like avatar marketing and know that people are explorers or this or that, that's great. Another thing you can do is, and then also decide in your game whether it's a marketing campaign or whether it's an employee game or something, would decide whether it's going to be an open world Alice game or whether you're going to direct it with quests. If you're going to direct it with quests and stories, then really think about there's about 17 different types of quests. There's an escort quest and a collector's quest where you have to collect things. I hate escort quests, by the way. Escort quests are where you connect with someone and you have to walk them through the world. And, one of the things you could do with an employee onboarding game, and I'm just showing off there because that's a new term for me. Onboarding is where you bring new employees in and do the HR thing and show them around. If you turn that into a game, which some companies have done by handing out cards, like collector's cards, like baseball cards, and they have to go around and find people and collect cards from them and give them cards. And I think they get an employee pack where they put the cards in the pack. So it's not a digital, it's an alternate reality game, or it's what we call an ARG, or it's a serious game. You collect these cards and you walk people around, but inside worlds, I hate escort quests because they always use what's called an NPC, a non-player character, who decides every single time to run into the middle of a pack of monsters. And if it was a real-world game, employees, walking somebody around the building and showing new people around the building and showing them the cafeteria or whatever, you would not run them into the middle of monsters. What about you, Dave? Is there any particular kind of quests or storylines that you like to follow, collector's quests or escort quests or anything? Nope, he's gone again. Oh, it's pretty hot here already. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. Let me see, what else do we have? Okay, so I think you're back. Great. So just
so, is there any particular what?
Just to cover off, I was going to ask you, what sort of quests do you like? What sort of storylines? Like, do you like escort quests or collection quests, or do you like exploring quests, or you have to go from town to town, or do you like saving the princess quest? What sort of quests do you like in games?
Um, I used to really like I think you described it as explorer quests, so going from town to town. Um, you know, um, yeah, those ones around where you go and find clues and talk to other characters, um, collect items and that sort of thing to move on to the next challenge or whatever.
What sort of what sort of quests do you hate the most? What sort of storylines do you hate the most in games?
Um, I don't know.
I
I
was,
don't know.
I was saying I really hate those escort quests where you've got some little girl who's supposed to be like 4 years of age, and she says, "Please take me to my mummy." So you start to escort her to her mother in another town, and she spots a whole field of monsters, and she goes wah and runs straight into the middle of them. So you have to fight them.
Yeah.
I'm like, just die already and walk away.
Uh,
You know what I'm talking about, right?
yes. Yes.
Yeah. Um,
So
so Des Walsh just said employee onboarding, which is where you create a game for new employees in your organization, is different from waterboarding. And Des, I would have to dispute that. I think it depends on what
well,
organization you're working for.
uh,
But yeah,
I
it's
think
not.
I think there are probably a lot of people that would find uh, a game version of onboarding very painful.
Yeah, but there's a problem with staff retention of Gen Ys, and part of it is because they're so used to playing games, and yet the schools teach you one game, which is arrive at 9 o'clock when the bell goes, have recess and lunch when the bell goes, sit still for the rest of the day, and then you can leave at 3:30 if you're good. And that's not really what I call a fun game. I have trouble playing that for 5 minutes, let alone however many years you've got to play it for. And all of that preparation, doing homework is the same as doing a research paper or writing, I don't know, papers for work or emails and stuff. So it's all in preparation for work. It's not a fun game. I mean, you get points at the end of the semester, but they're not. It's not like, oh, I used to like gold stamps and camel stamps. Do you remember those gold stars and camel stamps? But we don't get any of that anymore. What sort of
They do, they do. My daughter is in prep, and uh, what do they have? They have a leaf, a bee, and the sun. So, you know, they don't get, not the gold stars, but for good behavior, they get the rewards to, go up the chart to, achieve a leaf for good behavior and extended good behavior and following instructions. Um, they get a B or something like that, and then they get right to the top and they get to put their name on the sun.
Yay. Well, we should have that at work as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, just working to get a pay pack at the end of the month that's not a game that a lot of people like playing. It's when you have to play, but seriously, give me the leaf and the sun already. So with gamification, and we're entering into a world of gamification, so which is why I wanted to set it up. There's this open and closed worlds, but there are tons of different kinds of storylines that you can follow, which match different avatar or persona types. So whether you're developing the game as a real, game, PlayStation or an iPad game, or whether you're creating a game for employees, new employees, or current employees, or whether you're creating a game as a marketing campaign, you kind of have to take at least those three things. What kind of game, what kind of personas, and what kind of quests are you going to give them, what kind of stories? The biggest change that's happened in the last few years with social, and we're moving out of 2.0, which is the social web, into 3.0, Web 3.0, which is, I call it the little bits everywhere web, is this ability to track micro tasks. So I can count the number of emails you send out from your account and then give you a badge for
Yeah.
I don't know, the most industrious emailer, and then if you do 100 more than you're supposed to, you're the over emailer. You can get these kind of micro tasks. Go on, Dave.
Oh no, I was just. Don't mind me.
You're just living in a world horrified by the number of emails you send out. And the other one that I think is interesting is with semantic engines and other algorithms, we can then look at the quality of what's being done. So it's not just a collector's quest where you have to collect, I don't know, 200 trolls' ears or send out 200 emails. It's also the quality of those, how many got a response, how many of them got take-up, that sort of thing. This nanotasking is being implemented through Web 3.0 because it's the Internet of Things. The little bits everywhere is the Internet of Things. So our shoes are now reporting in that we went to the gym this morning, or in my case not. And that means that health companies can now gamify your health. If you do go to the gym and if you do have a certain level of fitness and if you're reporting that in every week, then not only do your health insurance premiums change, but they give you special badges like, I don't know, Foursquare badges or something. Dave, do you want to talk about Foursquare a little bit?
Yeah. So obviously Foursquare is a fairly prominent example of gamification where you not only compete with other individuals that you know or don't know for points and mayorship of locations, but you also earn badges for certain levels, I guess, of use.
Can you give an example? Like, do you have any cool badges? And how did you earn them?
Yeah.
Just for people who don't know Foursquare. I'm sure a lot of people do, but
a lot of people probably do, but I guess Foursquare very basically is an app that lets you check in at locations like restaurants or cafes or any business, and once you check in, that then gives you you can either use that in connection with your social network to see where other people are if you want to meet up or find out where they are. Get recommendations and reviews from your social network of friends for the places that they like the best. But then there's also the points system. So if you check in more often than anyone else, you can become the mayor of a location, which businesses can use as their side of the gamification. They can offer rewards to the mayor. So a cafe can offer...
Are you a mayor of anywhere?
Yeah.
Do you get any rewards?
I don't think I've ever been a mayor of somewhere that offers rewards for being mayor. But I have redeemed Foursquare rewards before for checking in. So if you check in 4 times, you get a free coffee at certain locations. And that's within the Foursquare app itself. It records how many times you've checked in.
Okay. I mean, I think one of the issues that I have with Foursquare is that it can sometimes build what we call the voucher community, which are the people who are playing along because they like free things rather than because they actually want your products and services. And voucher communities are perfect for any of the social buying groups like Groupon, Chompon, and Living Social and Streets, all of those. But I wouldn't, I always have a bit of an issue about gamifying that kind of volume coffee thing. There are some fun things. I've got the badge. I'm the mayor of Julian Assange's secret hideout. I found it. It's near Sydney Airport, and you can check in to there.
And I created it so that you could become the mayor.
No, I didn't. Somebody else. Oh no, who did? Oh, Stephen Johnson, who's Huxley on Twitter, created it. Or he was the mayor, and I took the mayorship from him. And of course, what happens is because it Facebooks and tweets every time you do this, on Twitter it goes out to my 50, 60,000 followers or whatever. So now they all check in when they get to the airport. And it's probably more fun for them to check into Julian Assange's secret hideout than it is to, for instance, the Qantas Club, because Qantas doesn't do anything. Like, there's no reward for checking into Qantas. So I've been mayor of the Qantas Club a few times, No, I can't be bothered telling everybody I'm at the Qantas Club. So Qantas loses that C2C advertising, that customer-to-customer advertising, because we're gamifying more fun things, I guess.
Yep.
I think one of the things with Foursquare that people don't realize with Foursquare is how much money they make from selling that data. I think they have something like 35,000 companies that they sell what's called the API to, the application programming interface. It's like a transactional RSS feed where companies can pull it into their social CRM systems and they can track where people are. And the other one is that Foursquare says that they know where you will be 15 minutes before you do. And I was trying to think about how they did that, because I have no idea where I'm going to be in 2 minutes' time. Like, oh, shiny, and I wander off. And I think what it is you're shopping in your CBD, and 15 of your friends are checking in the pub, and Foursquare can see that you're heading in that direction, but maybe you're not aware they're there yet. And they just know in a minute you're going to check Facebook or Twitter, or someone's going to call you and say, hey, there's 15 of us at this local pub, why don't you come here? And sure enough, within 15 minutes, you'd be at the pub, checking in on Foursquare, trying to get the mayorship of that pub. So that sort of peer pressure to, I don't know, what would you call that? Social, peer pressure, I guess. I just want to bring up a quick question before we carry on with this section. Des has asked, what sort of game could you use to introduce LinkedIn or Facebook or Google Plus to people? So how could you gamify a social network? I want to say LinkedIn has already gamified it. They give you a score out of 100 depending on how much of your profile you've filled in. So if you put in where you work and your date of birth and a photo, you've got 30 out of 100. And then if next week you get a testimonial from someone, you'll get another so many points. So it's a bit of a boring game. Games can be points or they can be badges, they can be different rewards. But there's definitely...
I don't think that's necessarily a highly... that aspect of LinkedIn and the progress bar, I don't think is necessarily a highly utilized gamification of LinkedIn. Like, I see it there, but I don't really care about it. It doesn't.
Also, it drives me nuts, Dave. I cannot bear not getting 100% in everything I do. And I feel like LinkedIn has just failed me at life if I don't get 100 out of 100.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point to make, though, that people understand different points of gamification are the rewards can include, as well as points or badges, like in Foursquare, a progress bar like that in LinkedIn is also gamification, because it's giving you a incentive to complete a task or go through a process to engage with that more.
And maybe, sorry, I put it on you again, maybe it's that whole Dorothy versus Alice world, is that I like the Dorothy world. It's like, just tell me what the rules are and I'll excel at them. And occasionally I don't. I go completely, off on something else and just can't be bothered. But normally I want to at least know the rules before I break them. And maybe, Dave, you just couldn't care less what the rules are and just do what you want to do anyway.
Well, it's also not it's not also, I mean, for you, that's an incentive and gamification for you personally. But I think for other people, and in the way that Des is maybe asking the question, is how could you, as somebody trying to get other people more involved with the network, like Des is, like Des with LinkedIn, how could you help introduce gamification for other people that's going to get them to involve themselves more?
Yeah. The only thing I would say with LinkedIn is that I think that it is a classic community for particular types. And if you're an A-type personality, you just give me the rules already because I can already excel at them. If you're not an A-type personality and maybe you're more in a creative space, you'll start to notice that a lot of the creative sites have funny badges and fun badges, as opposed to this sort of, that's a fairly dry LinkedIn example of getting your percentages up. But maybe that's appropriate for the LinkedIn community, their particular kind of personas. But you're absolutely right. You need to develop different types of games for different types. See, my mum would be completely stressed by the fact that she didn't have 100%, and she probably would not even log back in again because it just upset her so much that she was letting people down and not getting the points done. And, you know, that's not just my mum, that's heaps of people out there like that. And there is that sort of annoying thing where you feel like saying, yeah, go away already. I just want to say that Des has said that, Dave, you have the fried chicken badge on Foursquare.
Yes. I was just looking through my own Foursquare badges, yes.
Just getting a bit hot here. I just realised just how hot it gets in Bali. I should have done this in the air conditioning, but I wanted to be outside. Okay, I have a question for you. You know, we know about Foursquare. It's about checking into retail. It's about becoming the mayor. Foursquare sells that data, and now they can predict behaviours and buying behaviours and all sorts of stuff from big data marketing. I have a question for you about Klout. How do you think, Dave, Klout would read your fried chicken badge?
How do I think Klout would read it?
Yeah. Is that a bit pure?
Possibly is not very influential. I would hope not.
Klout does this amazing thing where they look at what Facebook pages people like, where they check into, and then they come up with an IQ score.
An IQ score?
Yep. They can come up with where they think that person is socioeconomically, which I just think is just plain rude. And one of the things they've realized is that if a Facebook page was started up by, for instance, a Harvard graduate, then normally that Harvard graduate will go and get all their mates as their inner circle. You know, we're always looking at building networks from our inner circle first to like the page. And then the flow on from that is that people who are attracted to the page and want to be part of that culture are Harvard-type people. And if you're not in that oeuvre, then you feel uncomfortable in the group and you leave the page. So I thought that was really interesting.
Wow. So what are you saying about my fried chicken badge, Laurel?
I don't know, but I would say that Kentucky Fried Chicken should be getting you points. No, I mean, you know, to be honest, I like to find weird and wacky places to check in, so God knows what me.
So, yeah, I've got like 45 or 50 Foursquare badges.
And all of them are media, right? Except for the chicken one.
Yeah. But there's different levels. So, for example, my Fresh Brew coffee badge, it recognizes all the coffee places that you check into. So now I'm up to, you know, you get that once, but then they have levels. You not only have the badge, you have levels of badge. So my coffee brew badge is 8 times. I'm up to level 8 of my coffee badge.
No way! That's way too much coffee.
But on my fried chicken one, fried check-in, it says, I'm only up to level 2. So I don't do that, you know, nearly as much as coffee.
You should not drink that much coffee, Dave.
That's right. Whereas I also have, you know, Mile High badge, which is not what it sounds.
I've got the paparazzi badge, which is I've checked into shopping malls that have 3 or more photo booths more than 4 times, which makes me a paparazzi, even though I've never used the photo booth. You can just get these wacky ones. Oh, I've got the player badge, which is I've checked into venues with 3 friends of the opposite sex more than 4 times, and I noticed that each one of them was an airport, which means I didn't even know those people were at the airport until I checked in. By the way, that's one of the things I like about this gamification of place, is that you get this synchronicity of, I remember checking in at Sydney Airport, and I got a message saying a friend of mine who was the director of innovation at the ABC is at the airport. So I rang him and he said to me, I'm about to get on a plane. And I went, yeah, no, I'm just in the news agency. And he came over and we had a chat, and I ended up having a meeting with him the next week. But that sort of always-on ambient connection makes for really interesting adventures in that space.
Yeah, well, that's the thing as well. It's happened to me as well, and it happened to be at the airport because that's the most, I guess, the most likely place you're going to run into um, someone, at least in Australia, where there's not that many airports to be flying out of. Um,
And
yeah,
massive distances between the towns. Like, you're
yeah,
not going to meet somebody at a bus station to go between Sydney and Melbourne.
yeah. Um, and so checked into Foursquare, and in the cross post to Twitter, I didn't know they were there, but tagged with someone else, and so that was the only way I knew they were there. And then we were able to meet up, and that was meet up for the first time ever in person. We'd known each other for a long time on social media, and then suddenly we were in the same spot that we didn't even know it. Met up, had a coffee. So there's that. I guess serendipity to it as well that is appealing.
Yeah, for some people, I mean, I checked into a venue in Brisbane because I'm based in Sydney and my sister's based interstate, and we happened to both be in Brisbane at the same time, and she saw at the check-in and we met up and had a coffee, and we didn't fight. It was amazing. um, and my mum's like, how did you two know you were in the same city at the same time? And neither of us wanted to own up that we were using public check-in services to tell the world, where we were physically located, because it's just not the thing that certain generations and certain people do. I just want to say that there's a couple of points here. George has said that some gamers need to get 100% like Lowell. World of Warcraft is impossible to get 100% achievements, although I'm working on it, I have to tell you, George. This becomes a detractor for the game that wants to become platinum. Our guidelines for considering the difficulty levels when designing. There's a whole bunch of studies. If you want to look up Jane McGonigal or Amy Jo Kim is probably the of social gaming for me personally. She's just written amazing things about gaming over the years. So there has to be a J curve, and there also has to be what we call end game, and you're probably familiar with end game in World of Warcraft, which is the people who've been playing for a long time. They've leveled out. It doesn't matter if it's Candy Crush and you've reached the top level of Candy Crush, or whether it's World of Warcraft and you're level 90 or 95, whatever it is today. You have to create this like end game to retain people. And I'm interested in end game for employee gamification, because if you find that there's a staff turnover after a number of years because they feel like they're not progressing or getting anywhere, maybe there's a gamification that can be done to encourage staff to stay. I don't know. Maybe there's an in-game for marketers, for brands, for people who've been using their brand for a long time. And I'm getting fed up with seeing newcomers. If you're new, you get 50% off. If you're an old customer, you do not need to apply, which always really annoys me. I'm like, I've been loyal to you, and you're going to give it to some tramp off the street. I've been a loyal customer for years.
Well, it's like when you ring up a phone company and they give you the auto options, and it's like, are you calling about your bill? Press 1. Are you calling about a problem with your phone? Press 2. Are you a new customer looking to join us? Press 3. I always think, if I press 3, I'm going to get to talk to someone immediately. Whereas if I'm an existing customer...
In fact, I did this with the airline before I flew to Bali, because I knew if I said I wanted to buy a new ticket, I would jump everybody else, and I just needed a quick question answered, which was, I think, something to do with the volcano eruption and was Denpasar Airport open. And I thought, if I say there I've just got a query and I've already got a ticket, I'm going to be stuck at the end of the queue. So you're going to gamify phone queues. I'm going to win that game. I'm going to get the badge of winning phone queues. Too much and coffee do not belong in the same sentence. I'm assuming Sean doesn't work for a coffee company, so therefore I agree. I'm going to +1 that one. And rarely play games, but when I get time, it's things like SimCity and World of Tanks. I don't know World of Tanks, but it sounds awesome. SimCity, it's funny because I'm a Dorothy and I like games and quests. Gary, my partner, likes open worlds, and he loves things like SimCity, Civ, anything where you're making your own choices and building your own worlds. He likes, all the Second Life and There.com and all those open worlds where you can be creative and build your own world. I'm like, I don't care, just give me this. I'm story, I'm focused. That's what I like to do. I do want to switch gamification for a moment. We'll come back to Clout because we didn't really finish on that one or touch some of the key points of Clout, but I just want to switch on to Dave. Do you watch much reality TV?
I do not. I suppose occasionally I get sucked in to, MasterChef or just trying to think some of the other ones that my wife likes to watch sometimes, but I'm not that.
It's blaming the wife time, is it?
Yeah. I'm not that interested in any of them, really, I don't think. I'm just trying to remember the last time there was a reality TV that I watched regularly. I can't think of any.
Okay, I guess the reason I wanted to pick up reality TV is I went and did a workshop at the Australian Film, Television and Radio School. I attended as a student. Now, I'm the worst student in the world because I'm a teacher and educator and all the rest of it, so I would sit there going, oh, I wouldn't have taught it that way. But one of the things that was fascinating for me was my focus, or the key thing that I did, was something called challenges. So in games we call them quest lines. On MasterChef they call them challenges, and they have a special producer's job called the challenge producer. And the challenge producer has to come up with the games, has to come up with the challenges. And it was interesting to me that even though these people that were on the course were top challenge producers, they were almost unaware of the whole body of work around manipulating communities. I don't know of another way of saying it unless you want to call it marketing, through games. So, I've got a chart of about 14 different types of challenges, and I sat down and watched some of the reality shows. By the way, one of the reasons I watched it is because, as you probably know, I've managed the online communities for Idol and Big Brother and MasterChef and some of these big communities in the past. And it was always interesting for me to see how the community reacted to the challenges on TV. And I'm really interested in exploring how we could integrate the audience with the show through challenges. And I'll come to that in a moment. Biggest Loser does, actually no, let's do it now. Biggest Loser does it quite well because you can play along at home, lose weight at home. By the way, losing weight is also a game, one that I lose regularly. But you can play along at home, you keep your diary online, you win points, you get badges, you do, there's the whole gamification element there. And sometimes the people who've been sent home are called back onto the show. So there's different ways of integrating the challenges. But yeah, look, when you're watching TV shows, if you're interested in gamification, sit there and say to yourself, that's a collection quest. They have to, and a timed, you can combine them, a collection timed quest. They have to collect 15 ingredients in 15 seconds or whatever it is. Or that's an escort quest. They have to get the pastry from the kitchen to the restaurant across the road in 20 seconds or something. So it's kind of interesting for me to watch how much gamification is built into particularly the new style shows. Do you watch The Voice, Dave, or anything like that?
Oh yeah, occasionally I do. I haven't seen much of it this season, but yeah, I actually did watch quite a bit of that in the first season or two.
Okay. Can you sing?
No.
Can you sing something for us now?
Absolutely not.
Okay. You just won the chicken badge. Or the You Saved Us badge. The Voice does a lot of something else we do in gamification, which is splitting people up into their sub-tribes, into their groups. So you said that you like to sometimes be a lone warrior, but sometimes you like to team up for first-person shooters. So in a way, that's what is The Voice a reality show? I just think of it as a talent show. It's not a reality, is it?
I don't think reality. I think more talent show because there's no they do show clips of the backstory and what they've done this week, but there's no like in the Voice House live. This is what everyone's doing every more
Yeah,
minutiae.
we're supposed to think that Big Brother is an open world where anything could happen, and I know, let's give them a whole lot of booze, and then if my vision's dropped out, don't worry about it, I'll be back in a moment, just the connection, but the vision drops out regularly here, so I'm not too fast. Anyway, in Big Brother, you've got an open world, you give the kids booze and no food, you take food away as a penalty in the game, and then you wonder what's going to happen to them. And of course, it's not, most of it's scripted, I assume. And then the voice is pretty scripted, but we expect that, so it's more of a Dorothy world. So if they are games, that's how it works. I'm going to ask a question, and I'm going to switch to Dave because there's no vision on me. Having 5 kids, I would love to see some sort of app that will gamify household chores. Kids might not like it, though. I saw one, Sean. I saw one. Dave, how do you get your kids to do chores?
Threats? No.
Going to make you watch MasterChef with your mum?
No, they enjoy that. They love watching cooking shows with their mum. At the moment, they're mostly too young to do chores. So the only chore they have to do is try, clean up their toys. Maybe put their clothes away, that sort of thing. And there can be, I suppose, rewards, and there can also be consequences for not following instruction.
I just tried to search. I just tried to search for the app that gamifies chores, and I can't find it. So I'm not sure. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll find the link and I'll put it up on this Hangout description on YouTube and also on Google Plus later. But it is a very cool app. And put it this way, the reason I liked it is because I was thinking that it might work for the adults' house, not the kids.
Yeah, I'm trying
if they go on. And by the way, children are never too young to do chores.
As soon as they're old enough to reach the sink, they'll be washing the dishes.
Good.
No, I was trying to think of I don't know about gamification of chores, but I think there's some apps as well for like family, not trying to think family management, but it's like syncing tasks and to-do lists and things like that, but specifically for families. There's another app like that. But as to how you gamify it, I don't know. It would be good if there was one where you could earn, little badges or things like that for the kids, or.
We used to have this in my house when I was a kid. On the fridge there were gold stars and silver stars, and we had some stars for if we learned our multiplication tables at home. My mum would take us through multipliers. I couldn't do it now. I really couldn't. It's funny, isn't it? I'm so used to looking up the calculator. But I think there was also one if we tidied our bedroom and if we got into the bath without an argument and all sorts of stuff. So you gamify for behaviour, and that's what I think people don't always realise. And the more, one things I recommend people don't do is name and shame trolls, because that becomes a leaderboard of the one who's been reported the most or has had the most complaints against them. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that even criminals sort of do this boasting thing in the pub where they go, I got 18 months. Yeah, well, I got 24 months. It becomes a gamification of the penal system. And you have to find other behaviours to motivate people than the negative ones you're trying. Don't reinforce negative ones, basically, if you're building a game.
Yeah. And it's, it even...
Bootsma. Let's talk about it.
Oh, yes.
We've only got 2 minutes left. Let's talk about Bootsma. And also, I'm running out of battery, and I can see that the whole internet's drying up around here. But Bootsma, can you explain what's happening with Bootsma?
Bootsma is a AFL player who plays for Collingwood, Josh Bootsma, and basically
Carlton.
he's been
Isn't it Carlton?
What did I say? Oh, did I say Collingwood? Sorry, yes, I meant Carlton.
Collingwood, not Collingwood.
You there? So he plays for Carlton, or did, and he's been sacked.
A little bit, but it's
And basically it's for repeated infringements on social media, amongst other things. Yeah, so I guess there's a bit about that, about how sport and social media mix or don't mix.
I have a question, guys. Do you
Yes.
think that sports people should be sacked for what they do on social media? Do you think that they should be sacked for doing things that they shouldn't be doing, full stop, whether social media is reporting them in or not? And also, do you think that this, expecting not only football stars but everybody to have a perfect brand reputation, is a realistic one?
Yes, basically. That's what I think anyway. Because it's public behavior. I mean, it's the same. I mean, it may not entirely be the same, but it is public behavior and public comment that's being set out there, and they have a level of expectation as a public figure as well, that their stuff is going to be more heavily scrutinized than necessarily general members of the public. But that doesn't change the responsibilities, I don't think. Other people might get away with it more because they're not a public figure, and so it's not seen as much. But it doesn't mean that it's okay for them to say or do those things that otherwise might be threatening or illegal or activity like that. And I'm not saying that this was. So just
But I have a question
looking through
for
the
you.
news. Yeah.
Bootsma put this stuff up on, was it Snapchat or
Yeah.
Vine? No, Snapchat, which
Snapchat,
is basically a private network, and you can set the video to explode after 15 seconds or whatever it is. It's like Mission Impossible. It's supposed to disappear.
Yeah.
The woman took those videos and then shared them with the club and others. So he had a right, an expectation, a fantasy that this stuff would stay private. Now, forget the moral implications of the fact that his wife's having a baby
Or that the
today, I think.
Or that the girl involved was a teenager.
But that's not illegal. That was
Depends
the issue, yes. I
depends
didn't
on
realize she was young. I think she was 18.
right.
I don't know. But then why is it okay for some celebrities to be obnoxious and not others? There are some bad boys that get away with a lot more. Dave, put away, if we're journalists that were being hauled over the coals over this kind of thing, how would you feel about it?
I would think that they should
Pretend
be.
Bootsma is a journo. Corey
Yep.
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 Okay.
Yeah, I would
because the company should be the moral guardian of.
I don't know, nothing to do with moral guardians. We've had that discussion before, but I think that there is I guess there's a level of expectation that anyone who is sharing that sort of stuff might be doing so secretly because they don't want it to be publicized and known about. if it becomes known about, then that's through, whether that's through somebody taking information that was intended to be private and publicizing it or not, you know, it was their choice to enter into that behavior in the first place. So, you know, it's like, don't put anything online if you ever want it to be private. Like, don't complain about something being seen online.
No, I think it's a case of don't do it if you don't want people to know about it, because it's often not us that takes the photo. Often somebody else taking screenshots doing stuff. So it's tricky.
Yeah.
Okay, we need to start wrapping up. I do want to just come back to Klout for a moment. My vision of Klout for the future is that, and we already know that when people go for jobs, they are often asked what their Klout score is. So in
Really?
particularly in California, in Silicon Valley, it's the same as asking, you know, your Rolodex, how connected are you? Sometimes people are asked about their LinkedIn profile, but now more and more they're asked for their Klout score. So particularly if you're in PR, marketing, media, anything like that, where your job is not only to create content, but to ensure that it's being distributed, you know, the social objects getting out there, then Klout is there. And I would say, you know, a lot of people say, oh, I hate Klout, can't bother with it, social media experts included. But again, it's like Foursquare, the API, the database is being sold to tens of thousands of companies who are using it for employment profiles. For, you know, got invited to the south of France by Hewlett-Packard, I think, to go and cover the release or launch of a new printer. So it's like a press jolly, I guess. I couldn't go. And also it's completely outside of what I would blog or write about, although I probably would have found a way to combine printers, shipping, and Cannes. I think it was in Nice or Cannes. And I do think that the future could be, you know, you get a job because of your Klout score in particular keywords, or you get a half-price car because you can deliver it into the new socio-economic that they're trying to target, or, you know, this marketing segmentation. It's not a broadcast measurement. It's not about circulation. You don't have to have hundreds of thousands of followers. You know, if there's only 15 people in the world blogging about nanotechnology biomedicine, then your Klout score for nanotechnology biomedicine will be really high if you've got 10 readers more than the other guy. So I'm sort of interested in some of that aspect of where it might go in the future. One that I do know is that loans, I've heard banks, or I've not heard, I read, that banks are now looking at Klout scores and are looking not only at Klout scores but your social network to determine the chance that you will default. So if you have family members that default, and you know, it's using Klout to explore the social graph, then you won't get a loan because you're part of that group that defaults on loans. How do you feel about that, Dave?
Well, I think it's dangerous because Klout is something that, you know, is essentially, in a way, can be gamed as well. If you are determined, to try to, then you know, there are people with a lot of influence and a lot of you know, a lot of industry influence and that sort of thing who may not have necessarily a great Klout score because they're not, you know, in constant social interaction or something like that might generate a higher Klout score, whereas someone else who may have
Barack Obama has the highest Klout score of 100, and he's not that interactive on social media. I mean, I know a lot of people hold him up as the example, but I actually don't think he's that brilliant. He never responds to people, you know. I think behind the scenes and at a grassroots level, social media is brilliant in the American government and with Barack Obama's teams.
Yeah.
But his persona itself online is not highly interactive and has a high score. I do think the algorithms will shift and change. You know, Google's new Klout score called Google Authorship has a massive impact on how businesses are being found online and where they're coming up on search. So the thing is, whether we like it or not, is it going to happen, Dave?
I don't think necessarily whether we like it or not, or maybe whether we like it or not, it is going to happen, but it's not necessarily going to be Klout that is the you know, a specific Klout score that's going to be the decider. It could be, you know, something new that we haven't seen yet, or or other ways of determining that.
And by the way, I think there's a naivety with people who think that clout is something new, because the big data marketing around everyday rewards, cards, and flybys and all those supermarket chains, they sell that database to thousands of companies in the same way clout does. And it informs everything from, health companies to banks, what sort of food you're buying, how often you buy food, what percentage of vegetables versus ice cream.
Yeah.
There's a whole range of data. And what was the company here in Australia that just got caught for selling that data? I can't remember. But all it does is it takes those machinations, those behind-the-scenes Machiavellian things, and social media makes them transparent. At least I can check now and go, my health score is a bit low. Maybe I should try and find my gym shoes and go out for a walk today. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe we can make the games for ourselves.
Well, I'll put it in the comments or links to go with the notes. But it was probably 2 or 3 years ago now. There was that gamification was huge in terms of gamifying everything, including news and other things. And then there was a whole discussion about is gamification old news now, and that was 2 years ago or something. But there's a great TED talk by the founder of Scavenger, a mobile app.
Oh yeah.
That I'll put a link to in the notes.
For those of you out there, Scavenger is without the U on it.
And basically talking about the gamification of everything in life. Basically, it's a really interesting TED talk. So yeah, I'll chuck that in there.
Oh, good. I'll put a link up to something I did on New Inventors about 6-7 years ago, where I talked about the future would be all the gamification stuff we've been talking about today. Foursquare predicting where you're going to be, getting a job based on your clout score, games at work to retain staff and to onboard new staff, TV and entertainment changing into games between the show and audience. They're all big picture movements. The implementation of them are pretty crap at the moment. I think you're right, clout may not win, Scavenger may not win, reality shows today may not look like the reality shows of the future, but games will definitely be part of it. And the Gartner's hype cycle, I think, is correct, which is when it stops being part of the hype and becomes normal, then people will wonder why we didn't always gamify the things that we game today. All right, we need to finish up now, but I just want to point out there's some lovely person, Sean Williams, has put up that the www.monster.com is the gamification of kids, what was it, work and chores at home. So you can go and have a look at that. I don't know, I haven't been able to click on that. I'm terrified if I click on anything I'm going to lose even more vision, because I'm here in Bali and I realise we've lost the camera again to me. But as long as you can hear my voice, it's good. But if you do click on that, it should hopefully show you an iTunes or an Android game for kids. If it doesn't, have a look around, because there's definitely something around chores and kids that's points and leaderboards and stuff that they can bring down to their iPad. And before you say iPads, just remember, Apple products in particular are the only ones that don't get thrown away at the end of life. They get peered across, peered up, and peered down, which means they go to your peers, like siblings, or they go to parents and grandparents, or they get passed down from kid to kid. So the oldest, the latest, newest one, and the next one, it's hand-me-down, but instead of clothing, it's Apple products, and in some cases. Okay, Dave, thank you very much for joining me today. It's been an interesting experience reporting in from Bali. Next week I'll be back in got a open fire going. It might even be snowing there. So in the Blue Mountains. Thanks to Sean and George and Leslie and all the other guys out there who've been being involved today. What else we've got here? We've got Abe, Rebecca and John. I thought there was somebody else. Des. Sean. Did I say Sean? And what are we going to talk about next week, Dave, at the moment, or should we throw it open to everybody else and ask them what they'd
maybe we should.
Like us to
maybe we should throw it open. Haven't thought about it, so we can throw it open to the crowd. Crowdfund it. Crowdsource it. Crowdfund it. Wow.
So here's a tip. If you're not organised, crowdsource it.
Crowdsourcing. That's right.
We're happy for crowdfunding as well.
Yeah. That's not just.
I know what crowdfunding would look like this program. I will pay you and Dave money permanently and promise me you'll never do another one. All right. Thanks very much, guys. Love you lots, and we'll see you next Thursday, 10 a.m. Sydney time, and whatever time it is on the Gold Coast.
Brisbane.
Same time on the Gold Coast?
Yeah, same time at the moment.
He can't hear me, so I will say same time on the Gold Coast, but 10 years earlier. All right, guys. See you. Thanks very much. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
All right, Dave, are you there?
I am.
I'm just waiting for it to come off air. It's very slow.